What's up, guys? So, Alec Baldwin in the Rush shooting, the investigative report just came out, and guess how long it is? 551 pages long. I've not read the entire thing yet, but we'll probably break down a good portion of it in this video. So, let's dive right in. So, right here, this is the first page of the investigation. It talks about the location 545 Bonanza Creek Road, Bonanza Creek Movie Ranch. Apparently the caller was Mamie Mitchell, who is the plaintiff in the civil lawsuit that we talked about in an earlier video, and I'll link that. So we'll scroll down. I already reviewed some of it, as I mentioned. This is just call notes. Not too important at the moment. And to mention, I've read thousands of police reports because before I was a personal injury lawyer, I worked as a assistant district attorney and prosecuted crimes. So I've read plenty of police reports and investigations and all of that. So first we got event notes addendum, and they talk about a stab, gunshot, penetrating trauma. So there's no stab, but male accidentally shot by a prop gun. Unknown if it was loaded, real bullet, or what happened. Must be a call note. Shot by a prop gun. Yep, caller statement. Shot by a prop gun. Shot in chest and one male shot in stomach. Requesting flight. Locked down in the room. That was life flighted for Helena Hutchins. So they locked down her room once she got to the hospital. Looks like someone put Joel Souza was a victim of the shooting today. There was a drone flying over the property, unknown where it went. So that's interesting that someone would have mentioned that. So we'll scroll down. Looks like the employees who are helping investigate this case. Again, caller. Some more call notes. And Joel Souza's name is right there. Additional name list, incident report name list, Joel Souza. So this is all the people that were on the scene who potentially could be witnesses, not necessarily just witnesses of the shooting, but they could also be witnesses. They heard the gunshot or they talked to a witness before or after. So, and it goes down quite a bit. 18 up to 27. 34 is Mamie Mitchell, who, like we just said, is the plaintiff in the civil action. So how many people was that? 43 individuals who could potentially be witnesses for this. Now we get to some of the narratives, which is the more interesting part. So on Thursday, each officer, whatever they do, they write a report. As you can see, the reporting officer is Sanchez. That might not be. So each officer writes a report on what exactly they did, how they did it, what information they gathered for an overall report. So you'll see sometimes a lot of the same information in the report because numerous people were doing the same thing or they talked to the same people. So sometimes it gets kind of repetitive, but we're going to try to go through some of this. 2 individuals were shot. They're doing a scene, and live bullets were in the prop gun. And you'll see many misspellings in police reports. It's not uncommon at all because they're trying to get as much information down as they can and in a quick manner because they do these reports not on the scene but afterwards. Sometimes they even have to go back and watch their body cams, which these officers did have. There were 2 victims on the scene. One of the victims was shot in the shoulder, and the other was shot in the stomach. In an old church where the accident took place, the main actor who fired the prop gun in this movie is Alec Baldwin. So we'll scroll down. Now this is a bunch of the property and the evidence. Incident report related property list. So they keep a track of all the property and evidence that is related to the investigation or the incident or the crime. So they can keep track of it, and they keep a chain of custody as well, which I think you see way like page 500 or something. So all these are watch guard videos. That's their body cam. They've got 2 45 rounds with holes, 1 45 round with hole, and they continue to list numerous ammo. I stopped highlighting them because they're so prevalent. Scarf, 2 socks. Like, they collect everything. Swab of blood, empty box of ammo. So they will literally collect anything that they find on the scene. So don't miss anything, and they can investigate everything. And they have it all if something comes to light, because sometimes you might not think that a box of ammo would be very significant until later after you interview more witnesses and find out more information. So, I mean, it just goes on and on. Unfortunately, I don't remember where it leaves off, so we'll scroll fast. Lots of boxes of ammos. And there we go. Oh, I passed it. There we go. DNA buccal swabs of Baldwin. So they were even taking DNA samples, and they did it more people than just him. They took DNA tubes, DNA swabs of David Halls. And now this is investigator, Lujan, supervisor. And so more people are writing their reports. And as you can see, they write in first person. I responded to the location. I again made contact with Dr. Anderson, who stated the possible projectile did not appear to do any severe damage to his blood vessels or broken bones. So they're talking about Joel Souza right now. I was also informed of the fact doctors were going to remove the projectile from Joel's shoulder. It was approximate half-inch hole on his shoulder. And then he asked Joel what happened. Joel explained he remembered a movie set employee or armorer handling guns prior to beginning to film the gun's fight scene. Joel explained he thought he heard someone say the gun was cold, which meant unloaded, but was not sure. Joel went on to say he remembered hearing a loud bang, which didn't sound like a blank round. Joel stated he fell backwards, looked forward. He stated the armorers deal with the aspect of the production, and he didn't know where the guns came from. So this is McCartney, and he's saying, I was later instructed by Lieutenant to have Alec Baldwin follow me to Santa Fe Sheriff's Office for an interview. So they were going to give an interview, and later, probably page like 400, is where he signs a waiver of his Miranda rights, and which means they can use what he says to the investigators in a criminal trial against him if charges are brought. Let me know if you think charges are going to be brought. I've heard that they're not going to bring anything before Thanksgiving, which is in 2 days at the time I'm shooting this. Hopefully I'll get this video out. But who knows what is going to happen after that. Based on everything that's coming out, it's very interesting to see who they charge. But Alec Baldwin might still be a part of who is charged. So then this clothing was then collected by evidence technician of what Alec was wearing. Baldwin waited in the briefing room until detectives were prepared to interview. Again, watch guard lapel, he submitted it into evidence. That was a property list sheet that we looked at. Some of these are kind of, look at these. They showed up. I secured the perimeter and allowed the required personnel to enter the scene. And that's pretty much all this individual did. So their report is real short, and obviously we don't need to break it down. So quite a few of these were like that, and I just didn't think it was worth your time or my time. So this is Lufer. This is maybe how you say his name. He was on the scene. I quickly assessed the situation and observed the male was suffering an injury to his top right shoulder. So this was Souza. The male was conscious, talking, moving. The female suffered an injury to her right underarm area and left back area. The female had what looked like the pads of a defibrillator placed on her left front. I assisted with opening and applying gauze pads. The female was breathing irregularly, and her eyes were glassy and were locked into a stare. So obviously, by the time they got there, she's obviously not in very good condition at all. He secured a total of 12 individuals who stated they were inside the church during the incident. 12 individuals were identified as the following. So we got all these people that were in the church when it happened. So Mamie Mitchell has filed a lawsuit against Alec Baldwin, Rust, and some other individuals because she felt the brunt of the gunshot. And do you think any of these other individuals should have standing and should sue along with Miss Mitchell? So we got the chief lighting technician, Surge Costume, Dolly Grip, script supervisor, which is Miss Mitchell, assistant chief lighting, key rigging, David Halls, which is the first assistant director. We've talked extensively about him and Miss Mitchell. The key grip, special effects coordinator, special effects key, special effects technician, and Alec Baldwin. So it looks like he might have been one of the only actors in there besides Helena. I waited with the above listed outside the crime scene tape near a large white moving truck. They waited for more officers to arrive. Here's someone else's report. So Rowe advised it is Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the armorer. I located Hannah walking back to the structure with a handgun in her left hand with the muzzle pointing down. I observed Hannah to be emotional at this time. I took custody of the handgun. It's very interesting that Hannah Gutierrez Reed is the armorer, and she was walking back to somewhere, looks like probably walking back toward the structure with a handgun in her left hand. What do you guys think about that? That's very interesting that she was doing that. I wouldn't have anything in my hands. The handgun was a 6-round revolver with an open cylinder, which I made safe. The handgun was empty with no live rounds or spent rounds. I asked Hannah if there were any other weapons. She advised yes, pointing to the east side of the structure to a gray cart, which I located 2 other handguns, ammunition, spent, and intact rounds. Hannah also pointed out on the cart 2 white boxes that were labeled Colt 45 rounds. Hannah pointed out one box which was half filled with ammunition and said, "Those are the rounds used today." So as I mentioned before, it's very important to keep track of that evidence. Because I'm sure there were lots of boxes, obviously, but which box that was. So that's why it's important to label them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as we saw in the property receipts. He took custody of the handgun, 2 boxes Hannah pointed out, and put all the items in the front seat of his unit. Also took custody of the gray cart. It's interesting that he didn't take pictures. I guess he's got a video on his lapel, but didn't take pictures of everything before he started moving it. So this part's interesting. Hannah was very emotional and getting more agitated because of the incident. I advised Hannah she was not under arrest several times, put her in the rear of my unit with the passenger side rear door open, but the vehicle locked. Now, it's important how much detail that he puts in this, and you'll notice it. So when you're under arrest, that means you're not free to leave. So I advised Hannah she was not under arrest and put her in the rear of my unit with the passenger side rear door open, but the vehicle locked. So she could still leave. She could get out of the car, but so he clearly put that in there for a reason, and it's for the Miranda rights. If he didn't read her Miranda rights yet and asked her a question about what happened, she answered, then the prosecution cannot use those statements against her in a criminal charges, in a criminal trial. And for you to be able to use those, you have to read a Miranda rights, and it's for a custodial interrogation. And so officers don't always have to read you their Miranda rights. If they don't want to ask you questions, they don't have to read you your Miranda rights. But a custodial interrogation is when you're in custody, you're arrested, you're not free to leave, and the officers are asking you questions. So those 2 things have to be present. So what some officers do is they throw the arrestees in the back of their vehicle. They're not free to leave. They arrest them, and they drive around or drive to a police station. And then the arrestee could say something incriminating. Can they use that against the individual? Yes, because he is in custody. He or she is in custody. But 2, it's not interrogation. The officer's not asking any questions of the arrestee. So it's very interesting, and that's part of the reason why he's putting so much detail into this by saying the passenger side rear door is open and making an emphasis that she is not under arrest. Let's scroll down to some more parts of this. A prop truck, a truck with moving props for the movie being filmed. So they had a prop truck outside. Officer Alderette. Once medical staff removed Joel and Helena, he secured the premises. While doing so, I was approached by a male that told me he had to talk to me. I told the male I would be with him shortly after I conducted my duties. This is important. The male told me he had to talk to me because he was the one that fired the firearm. I looked at the male and recognized him to be the well-known actor Alec Baldwin. Like, if I was an officer in this guy's situation, I'd look at him and probably be pretty shocked at what happened. Like, I've seen this guy in movies, and now I'm on an investigation that he might be the suspect in. So, but what do you guys think about Alec Baldwin going straight to an officer and saying, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you. I want to tell you something. He's trying to come clean. What does that mean to you all? I think it puts him pretty good, and we went over his cross claims in his petition, and he was painted in a pretty good light, and that, for example, paints him in a good light as well. So this is Jeremilio. He stated he was tasked with putting the microphone on the actor. So this is David Stevens, on the actor Alec Baldwin, and was listening to what was going on from outside the building. He stated he was watching from a window while listening in on the microphone. He stated the microphone was not recording, but he could still hear the sound and what was going on. David did state he would be willing to do a formal interview with the case agents assigned to the case. So he was outside watching from in and listening. Unfortunately, he was not recording. So this is Detective Joel Cano. And he says it was learned that Hannah Gutierrez was seen by medics due to her hyperventilating. So Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the armor, was hyperventilating at everything that happened. She wasn't even in the church when the gun went off, but she was hyperventilating. Does that have any weight to you guys in guilt? He goes on to, when he was talking to Alec Baldwin, Mr. Baldwin was asked if he would be willing to give a statement at the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office. I will do whatever you tell me. So Alec Baldwin, when asking if you want to give a statement, I will do whatever you tell me. What do you guys think about that? Because he's looking like a pretty good guy, and wants to come clean in this whole situation. Now, that just shows that he didn't intentionally do it, but was it still negligence? And what do you think the prosecutors are going to do with this information? Now, what I tell my friends and family is, if you're in a situation like this, always ask for your lawyer, because you never know what information law enforcement officers have, how they could be setting you up. And so you never want to give a statement without a lawyer there. At least get a lawyer there. So although I wouldn't do it the same way Alec Baldwin did, he does look like a good guy in wanting to come clean in what all happened. And so even though he could be a suspect, he might be viewing himself as more of a witness in this situation. And if you're a witness, obviously, they're not coming after you, but he doesn't even know if they're coming after him. But he should have a good idea. Mr. Baldwin said he would be willing to give a statement and was directed to the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office. I hope they release that interview. I think they have, actually. I need to go watch it. I need to find it. She medicated. What the? Interview of Sarah Zachary, the props master. Nicole, works as a prop assistant, and Rust was Nicole's first film. Sarah also mentioned Hannah Gutierrez Reed started on Tuesday, September 28th. Hannah Gutierrez was the armor. Sarah was asked what a prop master did versus an armor. Listen to this. Sarah is the props master. She works closely with Hannah Gutierrez, and so there's a difference between prop master and armor. And Sarah indicated her job was to bring in anything that the actors touched for the movie, and the armor is the one who deals with the guns. So Sarah might handle the bandoiler as opposed to Hannah, the armor, would handle the actual revolver and the bullets. Sarah explained by saying she was in charge of getting the guns, but an armor is hired to work with them. Okay, so she goes into more detail that Sarah might actually handle the guns, but the armor, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, is the one who works with them, loads them, that kind of thing. Sarah stated she assisted the armor, but an armor is the one who loads the guns and gives them to the actors. When Sarah was asked what time her day started on October 21st, Sarah indicated she did handle the firearms, although they were only loaded with dummy rounds. She explained and said dummy rounds have no gunpowder, and dummy rounds are there just for the look of it, indicating dummy rounds are used to make the gun look full. For the camera, Sarah also indicated a dummy round looks like a bullet, but if the hammer on the revolver hits the primer, it won't fire. And a dummy bullet probably doesn't even have gunpowder. So there's 3 guns on set, all revolvers. She explained 2 of the revolvers were used on set and dummied up. The 2 revolvers had shorter barrels than the one used in the incident and given to Alec Baldwin. Sarah indicated the guns were locked up before they took a lunch break. Hannah's duty was to take the gun to Mr. Baldwin. When asked who loaded the gun, Sarah said she does not recall seeing Hannah load the revolver after lunch. However, she said Hannah would have most likely been the one to load the guns at the cart. Sarah did not see Hannah load the weapons, but stated that they were supposed to be loaded with dummy rounds. Sarah stated dummy rounds are kept in the box or sometimes pulled from actors' gun belts, which are loaded with dummy rounds. And as we can see from the cross-claim that Alec Baldwin filed, he put photos in there, and there were in fact there were live ammo. There were live live rounds in his bandoiler, in his gun belt, and they're supposed to be dummy rounds, is what she's saying. Sarah stated that she thought a popper went off from special effects because she didn't know a gun was on the set yet. She said both of the guns she was working with hadn't been on set yet. So she was working with 2 other revolvers. She was told Alec's gun was on set. Let's see. When asked about her conversation with Hannah, she said Hannah was panicking and freaking out. After the shot was fired, Hannah began saying there's no way something was in it, and it was going to ruin her career. So instead of thinking about, wow, someone could seriously be hurt, she was thinking about her career as an armorer. Right off the bat. Not even a day later, a year later, weeks later. It was right after the incident. Sarah recalled seeing Hannah and Dave Hollis checking the gun. So Sarah remembered them checking. Sarah observed Hannah handling the cartridges after the gun was fired. So why was Hannah handling the cartridges after it was fired? She indicated Hannah held the dummies in one of them and did not have the lead end on it. Sarah heard Hannah say it somehow popped off. While Hannah was speaking with Dave, she heard Hannah say they're supposed to be dummies. Sarah believed Hannah kept the remaining cartridges because Hannah showed them to her. Do you think those made it into the property receipt? To evidence? When Sarah was asked what she did after that, Sarah said she took the fired cartridge and started comparing it to the other ammunition from the same box it was pulled from. Sarah said she found some rattled and some that didn't, which led her to believe there was more live rounds. Interesting. When asked if there should ever be live rounds on set, Sarah said it is prohibited to have live rounds on set. Sarah explained, saying the most dangerous rounds on a film set are known as full load blanks. Sarah said she didn't know they had live cartridges in there because they get them from suppliers. So now they're bringing in suppliers. Again, Sarah said they pulled from a full box of dummy rounds. They had Hannah had brought ammo from previous set. She indicated they both have also obtained ammo from Seth Kenny. Extra dummy rounds were obtained by Billy Ray. Sarah also added she is covered under Seth Kenny's license because he is an armor and supplier. So Sarah was a prop master for almost a year. There were a couple misfires one day with the blanks. A stuntman had one of the rifles and it misfired, alleging he was not around anymore. Sarah was asked, "What do you think happened?" Sarah said she personally believed Hannah might have messed up when she was checking the dummy rounds. Sarah said the armor is supposed to rattle one dummy round at a time. So this props master is explaining what Hannah is supposed to do, what the process of the armor is supposed to go like. Because if you rattle two at a time, you won't know which one is rattling. So Sarah's saying rattle one, see if you can tell if it's live or dummy. But what Hannah was doing was rattling more than one. So you might not realize which one is rattling, which one's live and which one's a dummy. She said the dummy rounds are noticeably because they usually have beads in them. Sarah thinks Hannah might have had two dummy rounds in one hand. Rattling was coming from only one dummy round. So going like this with more than one. Sarah also said she noticed the primer on the back of the fire cartridge was silver rather than gold. In her experience, most of the time when a cartridge has a silver primer, it had something in it. So saying it was live. So that is very interesting, good information from Sarah. Detective Hancock and I transported Hannah to be interviewed. During Hannah's interview, it was learned that Dave Halls had been on set and was one of the individuals who handled the gun that was used on set and handed to Alec Baldwin. So Hannah, the armor, is saying Halls had the gun at some point, whether it was before or after. That officer did not say. And here's Miss Mitchell again. She doesn't recall anyone saying action. She suddenly heard a gunshot, and Alec Baldwin was holding the gun in shock. It's interesting how she describes how Alec Baldwin was acting. Ms. Mitchell said she saw Dave weeping and speaking out loud. Dave was saying he checked the revolver. Now listen, checked the revolver drum, and he noticed a round that was different. Ms. Mitchell said that Dave began remembering and saying that 5 bullets were marked and one of them was not marked. Ms. Mitchell didn't know what Dave meant when he said they were marked. Ms. Mitchell indicated she was the person who dialed 911. That is huge because Dave is saying he looked at it and remembered 5 bullets were marked and one of them were marked and one of them was not marked. One of them looked different. That is a huge red flag, and that's something Alec Baldwin had mentioned in his cross complaint. Another report is the chief lighting department was interviewed. His name was Serge. He recalled seeing Alec Baldwin drawing the revolver from his holster and pointing it towards the camera. Helena Hutchins was standing shoulder to shoulder with him. Serge said Alec was just rehearsing and the gun should have been emptied. When asked how many gunshots he heard, Serge said he heard 1 gunshot. Serge saw Helena grabbing her stomach and saying, "Something happened, something happened." And Serge also goes on to say that Alec was distraught. So all these people are saying that Alec Baldwin was in shock. He was so distraught right after the gunshot. What do you guys think that means for his criminal case? What do you think it means for his civil case? Based on seeing the facts in this, he's building a good case, and he might be able to win his cross complaint. Now, there might still be some fault on him. There could be contributory negligence, which means more than one person is at fault, and a jury could even award a certain percentage that he's at fault. But he could theoretically come away with winning on some of his claims against those other individuals. So what do you guys think about this portion of the report? It's 137 pages out of 551. If you want me to do more pages, I can review some more and make a video on it, but let me know in the comments what you think and if you want to see more. Thanks.